The blood was wrong. Not the wounds. Those were surface, manageable, the kind of hurt that announced itself honestly and could be tracked with fingers and pressure and breath. This was deeper. This was the blood itself carrying something it had never carried before, every vein in his body running hot with a substance that had no name. And the heat was building because the thing inside his blood had nowhere to go, and no one had ever taught it where to settle. Corven pressed his back against the cave wall, and the corrupted stone was so cold it burned through his shirt and into his spine. And the cold should have helped, but it didn't because the fire was inside, not outside, and no amount of stone was going to reach it. I'm cooking from the inside out. Breathe. Vial's voice. Small. Sharp. The Aethervori hovered at the cave entrance, his dim glow casting faint white light across the rough walls, and the word landed in Corven's skull without passing through his ears. Direct, clean, the soul frequency carrying it like a blade through silk. I am breathing. You are panting. There is a difference. Slow the exhale, longer than the inhale. Your blood is cycling the energy faster than your body can integrate it. If you do not decelerate the cycle, you will rupture something I cannot repair. Rupture. The word sat in his chest next to the heat, and the two of them made a shape that tasted like panic. His hands were in his lap, palms up, and in the dim white light of Vial's glow, he could see his own veins. They were visible. Not the way veins are normally visible beneath skin, pressed close, blue-green, subtle. These were lit. Faint white traces running from his wrists up his forearms, following the paths his blood had always taken, but illuminating them now as if someone had poured light into his circulatory system and his skin had become the lampshade. That's my blood. That's the energy in my blood. I can see it moving. It was moving too fast. He could feel the rhythm, not his heartbeat, something layered over his heartbeat, a second pulse running slightly out of sync with the first. The soul energy surged on its own cycle, and every time it peaked, the heat spiked and his vision went white at the edges, and the bark at his collarbone, what was left of it, cracked. A piece fell, small, a flake of thin brown-green bark hitting the cave floor with a sound too small to hear, but Corven heard it anyway, because it was a piece of him leaving his body and every cell knew it. Do not look at it. Too late. His eyes were on the flake, on the patch of skin it had left behind, paler than before, almost luminous, and at the edge of the exposed skin, something was forming. Not bark, not skin. A crystalline residue, white, faintly translucent, pushing through the surface the way frost forms on glass. Slow, delicate, catching Vial's dim glow and refracting it into the smallest possible rainbow before the light died. That's growing out of me. I said, do not look at it. Look at me. Corven raised his eyes. Vial was dimmer than an hour ago. The Aethervori's resonance waves had contracted to almost nothing, tight against his core, barely extending beyond his surface. The energy threads that should have trailed behind him were gone. He was a small fading point of white, and the way he held himself, perfectly still, conserving everything, told Corven what Vial would never say aloud. He's dying too. The energy in your blood needs to settle. It will not remain in your veins. It is looking for anchor points, places in your body where it can pool and stabilize. Your joints, the junctions where your body articulates, knees, elbows, wrists, ankles, shoulders, hips, the spine. Let it find them. How? Stop fighting it. You are clenching against the pain, and the clenching is keeping the energy in your bloodstream. It cannot settle if you will not let it pass through the places it needs to reach. He wants me to stop clenching. The fire is in my blood, and he wants me to relax. But Corven closed his eyes and tried. Not because he trusted the process, because the alternative was the fire building until something ruptured, and he had already seen what rupture looked like in Vial's careful choice of the word. The slight tightening of the Aethervori's glow when he said it. The way the light pulled inward as if flinching from its own prediction. He unclenched his jaw first, then his shoulders, then his hands. Each release sent the heat surging into the space he'd opened. A rush of white-hot energy pouring through the joint like water through a cracked dam. His left knee went first. The energy hit the joint and the pain was extraordinary. Not sharp, not stabbing, but dense. A compression, as if the entire force of the soul channel was trying to fit itself into a space the size of a fist. His knee locked. His leg spasmed. He bit down on nothing and breathed through his teeth, and the energy compressed, and then it settled. The pain didn't vanish. It transformed. The fire in his knee became a warmth, a weight, a presence sitting inside the joint like a stone in a riverbed. Anchored, heavy, radiating a gentle heat that pulsed in rhythm with something that was not his heartbeat, and not the soul energy's wild cycle, but a third rhythm that belonged to neither. And both. That's a soul core. The word arrived without being taught. Not from Vile, not from memory. From somewhere inside the process itself, as if the energy settling into his joint had carried its own name with it, and deposited it in his mind alongside the warmth. Good, Vile said. 1. The right knee followed. Then the ankles, both at once, a mistake, the pain doubling and overlapping, and his vision going entirely white for 3 seconds before the compression completed, and 2 more soul cores seated themselves in his body with a permanence that felt like architecture. His wrists, his elbows, each one a flood followed by a compression followed by a settling. And each time the fire in his blood diminished slightly because there was less energy in circulation and more energy anchored. His shoulders were the worst. The joints were larger, more complex, and the soul energy took longer to compress. His left shoulder, the one swollen from the fall, screamed in a register he didn't know his body could produce, and something in the damaged tissue restructured under the pressure, and when the soul core finally seated itself, the shoulder was different. Not healed exactly, rebuilt. The swelling was gone. The joint moved in a way it hadn't moved since the explosion. The soul core had repaired what it had claimed. His hips, his spine. That one was not a single point, but a chain. The energy settling vertebra by vertebra down his back in a cascade that made him arch off the cave wall and press his skull against the stone. And the sound that came out of his mouth was not a scream, because a scream requires breath, and he had none. Then it was done. The fire in his blood was a whisper. The wild, surging cycle had calmed into something that felt almost like circulation. The soul energy moving through his bloodstream at the pace of breath, feeding each soul core as it passed, collecting what each core radiated back, a closed system running parallel to his heartbeat. 2 rhythms in one body, not synced, not fighting, coexisting. He opened his eyes. The crystal at his collarbone was pulsing, faint white light rising and falling in time with the soul core rhythm, not his heartbeat, the other one, the soul light. And now that the energy had settled, he could see what the crystal was doing. It wasn't just growing where bark had fallen, it was reading the soul cores. Each pulse corresponded to the energy cycling through the nearest joint. The crystal was a display, a visible echo of the invisible system running beneath his skin. I'm full of something I don't understand, and my body is showing it to anyone who looks. How do you feel? Corvin flexed his hands. The soul cores in his wrists responded. A warmth that spread into his fingers. A readiness, as if the energy was waiting to be used but was content to wait. His knees, his ankles, every joint carrying its weight of soul light, everyone pulsing on the same rhythm, everyone his. Full, he said. Heavy, but clear. Good. The blood phase is complete. The soul cores have seated. You will not rupture. The relief in Vile's voice was barely detectable. A slight loosening of the light, a fractional expansion of the resonance waves that had been clenched tight against his core for hours. But Corvin caught it because the soul frequency was carrying everything between them now, and subtlety was harder to hide on a channel that transmitted presence as clearly as it transmitted words. He was afraid. He thought I might die, and he was afraid. Not for sentimental reasons. Corvin understood that. If he died, Vile died. The Aethervory's energy was too low to survive alone in the rot. The boy was his only source of the soul energy his kind consumed to live. Practicality, mutual necessity. Nothing more. Except Vile was dimmer now than he had been when the soul cores began forming. The hours of guiding, of monitoring, of holding himself ready to intervene, it had cost him reserves he did not have. The Aethervory's glow was barely candlelight. The waves were gone. The threads were gone. He was a small pale point of white, hovering 2 meters away, and the stillness in him was not calm. It was conservation, the absolute minimum expenditure of energy required to remain conscious. Vile, I am fine. You're dying. The silence that followed was long enough to fill the cave. Outside in the rot, something moved in the dark, distant, irrelevant, the moor hollows prowling the outer ring, their flickering rune-lit forms passing beyond the cave entrance like bad dreams walking. Neither of them looked. I am not dying. I am diminished. There is a difference. What's the difference? Time. A dying being has none. A diminished being has some. I have some. Less than I would prefer. Corvin looked at his hands. The soul cores in his wrists were warm and full, and the energy cycling through his blood was rich and steady, and there was so much of it, more than his body needed, more than the soul cores could hold, the excess bleeding off into the air around him in faint white wisps that dissolved into the dark. Wasted. Leaking. While 3 meters away, the only being who could keep him alive in this place was starving. Take it. I am absorbing your ambient bleed. It is sufficient for the moment. It's not sufficient. You're dimmer than you were an hour ago. Take more. The ambient bleed is passive. What you are suggesting is active transfer. That requires a direct channel between us. A bond. That bond is not trivial. It is permanent. I don't care. You should. A soulbind is not a transaction. It is a fusion. My energy signature locks with yours. Permanently. You will feel what I feel. I will feel what you feel. Distance will weaken it, but nothing will break it. Nothing. You will carry me inside your awareness for the rest of your existence. This is not a decision to make in desperation. Every decision I've made today has been in desperation. What's one more? But that wasn't true, and Corvin knew it even as the thought formed. The root pledge severance wasn't desperation. The choice to walk to the outpost instead of going home wasn't desperation. Pushing the twins clear of the tree wasn't desperation. There was a thread running through every choice he had made since the Griffin ride north, and the thread was not panic. It was clarity. The same clarity the soul frequency had been feeding him in flashes he didn't understand. The clarity that showed him Lana's withdrawal before she announced it. The clarity that turned him toward the rot before the tree emerged. The clarity that put him on his feet in the clearing before the moor could finish file. Something in him made decisions before his mind caught up. Something in him chose before choosing was comfortable. He was choosing now. Bind us. Vile was still for a long time. The dim glow held steady. Whatever passed through the Ethevori's mind in that silence, calculation, fear, relief, the weight of permanence, it resolved into movement. He drifted closer. The distance between them shrank from 3 meters to 2 to 1, and at 1 meter, Corvin could feel Vile's energy the way you feel a candle's warmth, faint, failing, real. Open the point behind your heart, the place you found before, the deepest soul core. Corvin reached inward, past the wrists, past the shoulders, past the spine, down to the center of his chest where the first warmth had been, the space Viel had called the place that has always felt different from the rest of you. It was not a soul core, it was the source, the well from which the soul energy had first erupted in the clearing, the origin point. He opened it. The sensation was nothing like the soul core's settling. This was a door swinging wide in a wall he had not known was a wall, and behind it was everything he was, not his thoughts, not his memories, not the careful architecture of a personality built to survive disappointment. The raw thing, the unfiltered self, the boy who had always been half deaf to the network and had filled the silence with a stubbornness so deep it had become structural. Vile entered, not physically. The Ethevori's glow touched the open point, and the energy crossed and the bond formed in a single instant that contained no time. One moment they were separate. The next, Corvin's awareness doubled. He could feel himself, his body, his soul cores, his blood, and he could feel Vile. The Ethevori's essence was vast and ancient and exhausted and wounded and proud and lonely and specific in a way that Corvin had not expected, because he had been thinking of Vile as a teacher and a survival tool, and what the soulbind showed him was a person. Vile Ebbinflow, collector of minerals, loner by choice, old enough that the concept of age had become academic, injured in ways that went deeper than energy depletion. There were cracks in his core, hairline fractures in his essence, where the maw hollows had bitten close to something vital. He was more damaged than he had admitted, more afraid than he had shown, more grateful for the boy in the cave than he would ever, under any circumstances, say out loud. Corvin felt all of it in the space between one heartbeat and the next. "Stop reading me," Vile said. "The bond is not an invitation to rummage. I'm not trying to... Learn to close the channel to a resting state. Full open is for convergence, not for casual awareness. I do not need you feeling my every private thought, and I assure you, the reverse is equally unwelcome." But the energy was already flowing. The soul bind was open, and Corvin's excess, all that rich, steady soul energy his body was generating faster than his soul cores could hold, poured through the bond into Vile like water into dry earth. The Ethavory's glow strengthened. Visibly, the resonance waves expanded outward from his core, 1 layer, 2, 3. The threads began to reform behind him, trailing faintly, catching the cave's dim light. The cracks in his essence, Corvin could feel them through the bond, began to close. Close. The energy sealing them the way heat seals wax. "That is..." Vile paused. The light pulsed. "Adequate." And what came back through the bond was not gratitude, because Vile was not built for gratitude, but something more useful. Stability. Structure. The energy that returned to Corvin from Vile was not the same energy he had sent. It was shaped, refined. Vile's millennia of experience acting as a filter, the raw soul energy passing through an ancient intelligence and returning to its source cleaner, more coherent, more integrated. Corvin's soul cores received the refined energy and responded immediately. The pulse steadied, the rhythm deepened, the crystal at his collarbone brightened by a fraction. "He cleans what I give him. I fuel what he needs. The cycle makes us both stronger." "This is convergence," Vile said. And for the first time since Corvin had met him, there was something in the Ethavory's voice that was not blunt or sharp or instructional. It was quiet, almost reverent. "I have guided awakenings in other species. I have never experienced convergence from inside a bond. The theory does not prepare you for..." He stopped, contracted his waves, pulled the professional distance back into place. "We will practice this regularly. The mutual benefit is significant." Hours passed. They converged. The energy cycled between them in the dark cave, Corvin generating, Vile refining, the soul light on the crystal patches pulsing in a rhythm that slowly, over hours, synchronized with Vile's own glow until the two of them were pulsing in unison, a shared heartbeat of white light in the absolute black of the rot. And something unexpected happened. Corvin was deep in the convergence, eyes closed, the soul channel wide open and humming with the refined energy cycling back from Vile, when he felt it. Not the soul frequency, not the white current, something else. Something so faint he almost dismissed it, the way he had spent his whole life dismissing faint signals. Green. Not the full network hum. Not the living voice of Verdantia's trees carrying 10,000 signals through root and branch and bark. A whisper. A single thread of green warmth winding through the soul energy in his blood like a vine growing through stone. Tiny, fragile, stubbornly alive. His connection to the network. The one that had been thin his whole life. The one that should have died completely in the rot, where no living tree carried any signal. It was still there, faint beyond faint. A heartbeat heard through a wall, but there. And this was the part that made his eyes open, and his breath catch, and his soul cores flare bright enough that Vile's glow doubled in response. It was stronger than it had been before the soul channel opened. Not much. A fraction. But measurably, undeniably, impossibly stronger. Vile. I felt it. That was the green. The network. My connection to... I know what it was. Silence. The bond carried Vile's confusion clearly. A sharp, angular emotion, the shape of a mind encountering something outside its models. Corvin felt the Ethavory's certainty crack for the second time, and this crack was wider than the first. That should not be possible. The soul channel displaces the elemental. Every case I have encountered, every protocol, every record, the soul frequency opens and the native frequency retreats. It is one or the other, not both. That is what I am struggling with, yes. It doesn't want to leave, and I don't think it should. Vial went very still. The glow held steady. The bond transmitted something complex. Layers of recalculation happening at a speed Corvin couldn't follow. Old certainties being dismantled and rebuilt. Protocols being rewritten in real time by a mind old enough to know when its own assumptions had failed. Your species, Vial said slowly. Whatever this world did to you, it did not paint you, it grew through you. The green is not a layer, it is structural. Removing it would kill me, at minimum. And I was pushing you to release it. The weight of that settled between them through the bond. Viel had been wrong. The protocol was wrong. If Corvin had obeyed, if he had been more compliant, less stubborn, less built from a lifetime of refusing to be what others demanded, he would have let the green go, and the soul channel would have torn through a body that needed both frequencies to survive. His stubbornness had saved his life. Again. So what am I? Corvin said. New, Viel said. The word carried more weight than anything the Aethervory had said since the cave. You are not what your people are. You are not what your people were. You are something that has not existed before. And I do not have a protocol for something that has not existed before. What do? We build one. Another piece of bark fell from his shoulder. It hit the cave floor, and in the silence of the rot, the sound was enormous. Where it had been, the crystal was already forming, white, faintly translucent, growing in the space between what he was losing and what he was gaining. And through the crystal, two lights pulsed. The soul light, white, steady, the rhythm of the soul cores. And woven through it, impossibly, a thread of green. The faintest emerald trace running through the white crystal like a vein of color in marble. Both. Not one or the other. Both. Vial drifted closer and looked at the crystal and said nothing for a very long time. We need to move, the Aethervory said finally. We have been here too long. The hollows track warmth and energy, and we are producing both in quantities that will draw attention. Which direction? Toward the barrier. South. If we... Vial stopped. His glow contracted sharply, a defensive reflex Corvin felt through the bond as a spike of cold focus. The Aethervory was sensing something, reaching outward with whatever senses his kind used to read the world. What is it? Something is aware of us. I felt it shift, distant, deep in the center, but oriented in our direction. Through the soulbind, Corvin felt what Vial felt. A pressure, not physical, not close, but vast. A weight of attention settling on their position the way a searchlight settles on a point in the dark. Patient, precise, unblinking, and beneath the pressure, so faint it might have been imagination, so distant it might have been echo, a pulse. Not white, not green, purple. Corvin's soul cores went cold.